Hello and welcome to the JoyNews channel. The news is replete with stories about the economy. The global economic downturn is the biggest story, and you've read many angles to it. Here in Ghana, we are facing a peculiar challenge because inflation keeps soaring. At the latest reports by the Statistical Service, we are 33.9%. That is an all-time high. But as you may know, if you've paid attention to the details, we have transport and food that is driving the inflation. But if you look further into food, you'd see various components. Rice is a major factor. Cooked rice, that's food, local rice, but also imported rice. And so today we're going to have a conversation with a man who has been at the helm of a success story within the sub-region. I'm talking about Nigeria. As of 2021, they did about 9 million metric tons. And the demand, as we know it, is just about 7 million. It means they are producing in excess of what is demanded locally. And that will mean they'll have some more to export. And definitely that will bring some good returns to the economy. What can Ghana learn from it? Especially because we have one of our own who led the initiative in Nigeria, which has now become a success story. We are here to sit with him today to have a conversation on how Ghana can revolutionize its rice production and pick his thoughts on a few things happening in the agric sector as well. He is Abraham Dwuma Odoom, and I'm sure the name rings a bell. He was former member of parliament for the Trifo-Itimokwa constituency, and also a one-time deputy local government minister and local and deputy health minister in the Kufuor administration. Honorable, thank you very much for agreeing to sit with us to have a conversation.
You're welcome.
You're looking strong. You celebrated your 70th birthday recently,
Yeah.
but you're looking very strong.
Oh, because I eat Ghana food.
Right.
I don't eat any foreign food.
But most likely your rice wouldn't be Ghanaian.
No, my rice is Ghanaian.
It is?
Yes, I eat Digo rice. Digo is Yaopoku, the Rice Millers Association's chairman, is rice bran.
Okay, okay.
That's what I eat.
That's interesting.
Recently, I bought about 10 bags, distributed among my children,
I see.
my family members. So that's what we eat.
So let's get into the conversation and talk about, once you started with rice, I know that you were invited to Nigeria to be part of a policy, decision, a program to revolutionize rice production in Nigeria. And this has taken about 7 to 8 years. How, first of all, did you, did the spotlight fall on you for you to receive that invitation by the Nigerian government? I do not know in your background, I do not know you to be an agric person or even into rice production.
Okay, thank you for being here with me. How it did not happen was I initiated Kuku High Tech in Ghana. And therefore, when President Kufuor had finished his term of office, and he was invited by Madam Selip Johnson of Liberia to come and help her or the economy also revitalize their cocoa. President Kufuor took me there.
Right.
It was there that I conceived the idea for revitalizing cocoa and rice. And how did it come about? In Liberia, I work with the indigenes, and their staple food is rice. I go with them to the farm, outstations. Fortunately, we get yam, plantain, or cocoyam to eat. We come back to Monrovia, and their complaint is, "Bossman, we have not eaten today." Meanwhile, we have ate plantain, ate cocoyam, yam. But then, for them, because they have not taken rice, they have not eaten. So I have to give them money for rice. But then I realized that all the rice Liberians were eating were coming from India.
Okay.
So something struck my mind. Africa, what are we doing? How can a whole nation, Liberia, Their staple food is rice, and yet their stomach is resting outside. Somebody will have to come and feed their stomach. So I did a concept paper for cocoa, which I was sent there to do,
right,
and then for rice. Then I brought it to President Kufuor. That, President, now that you are out of office and you want to do your foundation, he sent me to Liberia, and this is my concept and ideas that I'm getting from the field work. Can we look at it? Then President said, okay, Odoom, let me take you Professor Amano. He's at Legon, Economics Department. He will help you polish your concept so that it can be acceptable internationally.
Right.
Then Prof helped me, we did it, and fortunately, within that year, President Kufuor was given an award for the best achievement in cocoa as a president. So we went to Washington together. I went with him. So at a side meeting, I happened to chance on Michigan State University, Cat-Hunger and Poverty Foundation, who got interested in my concept paper, which I've presented as Kufuor Foundation concept paper. And they said, okay, we'll work on it. So they also work on it. And then they were able to get Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to support it. So it became Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and J.A. Kufuor Foundation coming together to put up what we called the Competitive African Rice Initiative.
Okay.
And the target and the goal was that let Africa produce its own rice at a competitive pricing. We're looking at the quality, the price, and the volumes. So that was the challenge. Bill and Melinda Gates and Kufuor came together. Kufuor Foundation was to handle the policy and the advocacy area. And then Bill and Melinda Gates will also do the technical aspect so that we'll be competitive. Once you are competitive, then you have enough argument to ask governments to listen to you
And buying into
buy into it. And then President Kufuor sent me to Nigeria. That was the headquarters of the project. Then I went there. Then we started the whole show. When I went there, I toured the whole of the Nigerian rice growing areas, about 26 of the states. Then I came down and I sat down and I imagined a strategy, designed it, executed it, and then created what you are talking about.
So what was the strategy that worked in Nigeria? So essentially, at this point, you have support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and of course, you representing the Kufuor Foundation had gone there to do the implementation of the project.
Correct.
But going on the ground, seeing what was available, what structures there were, what did you decide to do as the first step that would then begin the success story?
I had a technical team working on improving the field issues. The field issues, we're talking about the seeds, the production cycle, water systems, and the productivity. And then I was to work on advocacy. During my tour of the 26 states, I realized something very, very peculiar and very interesting and very critical for African agricultural revolution. That you need to work mobilizing the farmers into viable and vibrant groupings. Beyond the farmers, the other stakeholders, and then get a value chain established. And once we've got the value chain established, and we sit together like we are sitting together here, we decide the path that we want to chart. And then in it, I also got a realization. I need to work on the mindset of the people. Why do I say the mindset? Because, for instance, the input dealer who was selling the seeds to the farmer was selling fake seeds to the farmer. So right from the word-go, the farmer plant and nothing good will come out of it.
Was this detected before you moved in, or this was part of your...
Part of my exploits.
Right.
No, along the line when we were discussing, all these things were coming up. Some of the farmers, the input dealers, were selling fake chemicals and fertilizers to the farmers.
Okay.
So no wonder when I brought in the financial institutions, they were telling me, we can't do this because the farmers, we've given them loans after loans and they are not able to pay.
So when you talk about mindset, are you talking about the mindset of the farmers or the mindset of the dealers?
Mindset of the farmers as well as the mindset of the dealers and all the stakeholders.
Okay.
Then I came to also realize that between the farmer and the millers, farmers were also growing heterogeneous crops. You know, you see, a miller will want to buy, say, Faro 44. But then a farmer was planting Faro 44, agric, and so this. So a miller buys what is produced. And even, not even talking about the moisture content, will go and mill and it's all broken. So he too was not making any profit. So it threw the whole system into some disarray. So when we sat down and we discussed these issues with the primary people, then we came to a realization that if we can do this, then we can attract the financiers to come in. And I remember one of the meetings in Jigawa, very close to Borno State, where the Boko Haram people are. Then one of the development officers of the central bank told me, Honorable Odoom, this thing that you are talking about, we have money in our bank for it. Because we have money for import substitution. And if it is right, if it is rice, we qualify. So when you go back to Abuja, do a paper to our governor. I'm going to send a message that you are doing this paper and it to be considered. It was that paper that I did that ushered in what Nigeria have as the anchor borrower project. And the anchor borrower project is simple like this. You are the mailer. I'm the input dealer. The man taking the camera is our Rice Farmers Association. So you, the mailer, you need about 2,000 of them to produce what you require to produce mail in the year. So the bank gives you money, but then the money is dispersed to him, the farmers, and to me, the input dealers. So that we, the input dealers, we are committed to provide certified seeds and certified chemicals to the farmers. And once our technical team was working on the farmers to improve their yield per hectare and per acre, definitely once the right inputs were being supplied, they were going to make it. So no wonder they moved from 1.5 to 3.5 and to 4.5 and even 5 metric tons per hectare.
So the point of you moving in to the point of doing the paper in Abuja was which year?
That's 2014.
That was in 2014.
Yeah.
Let me take you back a bit. So at the time, the foundation, Bill and Melinda, together with the Kufuor Foundation, had settled on Nigeria. What were the factors that were considered for settling on Nigeria as the initial country for the test?
Actually, it wasn't only Nigeria.
Okay.
It was Ghana, Nigeria, Burkina, and Tanzania.
So what happened to Ghana then?
Ghana, we use a different method, and I keep on saying, the Ghana grape method doesn't work.
This was also in 2014, around the same time?
Yes. Ghana was doing the same thing. Ghana, Burkina, Tanzania, and Nigeria. And I was in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Yeah, so Tanzania is successful.
So you were seconded to Nigeria to oversee the project.
Yes.
Who was in charge of Ghana's project?
We have here somebody as who was...
Our own people?
Yes, our own people. And they were also supervising Burkina.
We'll come back to the Ghana situation because it is quite disappointing that we have a success story in Nigeria and we can't point same in our own country. When you, a native, was leading our neighbors to do what is right and what has become now a success story that has been celebrated. But in Nigeria, what would you say was that magic wand, that master stroke that truly made the difference?
Well, the magic wand was the reorientation program that I put in place. Along the line, I realized, like I said, mobilize the people. When I mobilized them and I got them into the groupings, REFAN, the Rice Farmers Association, REMAN, the Millers Association, and then the input dealers. Then I started talking to them from state to state. And then I also moved to the importers.
And I was just going there.
The importers,
I was just going to talk about reorienting the importers because in Ghana, that has been the major challenge, that we have a huge business with a value chain.
Yes.
And the concern has been
the resistance will come from there.
Resistance will come from there.
Yes. So I went to Lagos to meet the president of the Imported Association, a lady, and I sat with her like we are sitting. Fortunately, her chief executive officer was a graduate student. So we sat down and I said, Madam, do you know what you're importing from Thailand and Vietnam means to Nigeria? Then after 2 hours discussion, then we went for lunch. Then Madam said, are you sure you are from Ghana? I said, yes, I'm from Ghana. I was sent by President Kufuor to come and have these discussions with you people. So what you have said, I've listened, I've heard it. We are going to work with you because I'm now realizing that we need to help our own children here rather than sending money to outside for them to use it to employ their children as against our own people.
So what was the plan for the importers? I'm interested in knowing that. I mean, once the signal was sent that Nigeria was going to begin its own rice
they
production,
decided.
What did they do?
So they decided that they would go behind the millers that we had. So that if I was an importer and I was importing about, say, 1,000 metric tons, I would start importing about, say, 500 from a local producer, and then 500 from outside, at least to balance it, and then see how the consumers. Meanwhile, I also had a meeting with the Consumers Association. Appeal to the consumers to begin to appreciate their own rice. So as they did it, and then consumers started responding positively to the local rice, then they started reducing their importation. So we did a program. That is why somewhere in 2016, 2017, Nigeria stopped the importation of rice. So it was a program based.
Very interesting story there. So Nigeria obviously is doing very well with rice. The market is estimated to be 5.6 billion and it's expected to grow. Why didn't Ghana's initiative succeed? Have you looked at it?
Yeah, Ghana won, like I said. We use what we call a grip. Ghana Rice Interprofessional Body. And that body was like, it wasn't any vibrant body. You see, Nigeria, we use refund, the input dealers, and then the mailers. When they got it right, then the central bank became interested. But Ghana, GRIP didn't get it right. And as at now, GRIP is an amorphous organization. It's not working.
What exactly did not work? Is it the rollout of the program, the fact that they didn't target the people?
It's not the rollout, the management and the organization. Now, don't forget, I told you that I had to do a mobilization and then reorientation. Right. Yes. But GRIP now, I tell you, it's a one-man business. One person is running GRIP. And when you have one person running a whole organization, definitely it's not going to work.
You mentioned in the Nigeria case that once you met with their leaders, the political leaders, some of the governors, they bought into the idea. Would you not say that was really one of the strongest indications that this program was going to work? The acceptance, the determination by the leaders to move in that direction.
That works, but it depends on how prepared and how organized you are to meet the leaders. You see, if you come to me and I realize behind you, you are not organized and you are not prepared, as a leader, how can I listen to you? Are you coming to me with a disarrayed program? No. But when I see that you are well organized and you are well structured and you mean good for your people and for the country, then as a political leader, I will listen to you and give you the space.
But governments should be interested anyways because of the benefits and the potential that it has in turning around the economy. Our government has said that it is dedicated and interested in making sure that agriculture thrives. You've seen the number of policies that has been rolled out, and especially under the planting.
Statements that have been made.
Statements have been made, promises and timelines, and all of that, which unfortunately has not materialized. Do you think that we have shown enough commitment?
Oh, now government
besides the millions of dollars.
Now at least I know that we have put in place what we call the ECOWAS Observatory Group in Ghana, which is headed by Yao Poku with his team of experts. Some researchers, some businessmen who are observing what Ghana ought to do. I didn't tell you, when I was in Nigeria and I was doing it, I had my mind on getting the whole of ECOWAS hooked up onto the competitive rice program. So I involved ECOWAS. So no wonder recently ECOWAS have also gotten involved, that they want to use the blueprint of Nigeria to do what must be done to get West Africa out of rice importation. So Ghana now has an observatory team under the auspices of GIZ.
Right. You are obviously done with your project in Nigeria.
Yes.
Would you?
No, I'm still an international consultant.
Well, but I'm asking because some have said that if you have managed to get Nigeria onto this path, why not your own country?
Oh, I'm part of the Ghana team too.
You are now part of the Ghana team.
Yeah.
And so we can keep our fingers crossed as far as rice
Yes.
production is concerned.
Now, currently, for instance, I'm working with National Service. You might have heard about the Kumewu project, where we've taken about 50,000 acres. And we are going to do a massive agriculture project over there.
Is it mainly rice, or you are looking at other
Maize,
crops?
rice, soya beans, and cowpea. And then we also do some poultry as well as aquaculture and some cattle rearing.
Okay, and that is the National Service Program. Yeah. And I'm interested in the value chain you mentioned, because we still have the situation where even with the limited amount of rice we produce, there are still post-harvest losses. And so with what you're looking to produce, do we have the market for it? How are we going to ensure that at the end of the day, we get Ghanaian rice or maize, whatever it is, onto our Ghanaian market, affordable enough for the people to purchase, and then make the returns at the end of the day whilst creating the jobs?
You know, when you're talking about post-harvest losses, it's a whole another argument.
But you know about that, especially
yeah, because it's about the
Yeah.
harvesting, it's about the warehousing, it's about the drying, it's about everything. And that is where we haven't delved much. And I always talk about Africa must be thinking. See, recently, when we were lamenting on Ukraine-Russia war,
yeah,
I said, why? People with 60% of arable land lament and cry over people with only 3% arable land at war. That we are going to starve. When you have 60% land, and we have so many natural resources here.
We get fertilizers from them. So once, you know,
why do we have to depend on them for
has
fertilizer? Why do we have to depend on them for fertilizer? You go to Europe now, and they are talking about organic foods. And organic food is coming from the droppings and the manures that we have in the system. And we have the most. Currently, Kuwait is importing cow dung to fertilize their land. And I have started a program where we are taking chicken droppings and helping farmers. And the kind of results we are getting, amazing.
Where is this program?
We are taking the droppings from M&J Farms, this place, Bekwai, Manso Kropon. We're taking it to Wenchi. We're taking it to Ejura. And we are going to take it to National Service Farm as well.
What will be your judgment or assessment of the Planting for Food and Jobs program and this, you know, fertilizer subsidy?
The planting for food and planting for export, those things, fine initiatives. But like I said earlier on, you need to design well and you need to execute well. You see, if you get the designing wrong, execution will be wrong.
So we have not designed it well.
Yes.
And we have failed in the implementation.
Just recently, just yesterday, see what was in the news. Fertilizers meant for planting for food and for cocoa fertilization being stored in a warehouse and rebagged for export to other countries. Would you say we have done well? Would you say we have executed well? Definitely no. So, you see, the whole thing, you imagine something. you design it and you execute it as design, and then you create. And once you create, there'll be satisfaction with everybody. That Odoom, come and let's sit down and we think about the Galamsey sites and how we are going to restructure those places. And I told him, yes, we can reclaim the land and then redeem it. Reclaiming it is filling up. Redeeming it is planting like the cabbages to remove the mercury out of it from the land, so that the land can be used for rice or other things.
The devastation caused in those areas is quite huge.
Yes, we're talking about between 50 and 100,000 acres of land.
This must be a very challenging project.
Yes, but fortunately, the regional minister, very hard-working guy, is gotten the World Bank behind him to support that project. So I think I need to lend them my little technical and divine knowledge that will be able to do it.
And so ultimately you move into rice production after the lands have been reclaimed. Yes. And the
rice and other vegetables. We could do other vegetables along that. You see, when we are doing rice, you can do maize, you can do cowpea, you can do other things.
When is this expected to be rolled out?
Oh, maybe next 2 weeks I'm going now. We start thinking about it. Then we see how far we can go.
Right.
But I don't procrastinate. When I set my eyes to do anything, I make sure that I do it expeditiously.
And so that project is independent of the GIZ project as well?
Yes.
So what would you say about the future of rice production in Ghana? Should we keep our fingers crossed to...
the future of rice production in Ghana is very splendid. Once we get all these things going, a matter of 3 years, Ghana will be out of rice importation. Now, rice can be grown if you have water 2 times in a year, even 3 times in a year, depending on what type of rice you are growing. So its policy is in place and finances are available. In 3 years, Ghana should be able to come out of rice importation.
You mentioned water, so let me ask you, we had the One Village, One Dam, which was supposed to support, irrigation of our farms, especially in the dry season. What is your assessment of that?
I've never visited any of the dams, so I can't say much about that. But what I know is that in Nigeria, when we're doing it, we used to dark water.
Okay.
We were using the boreholes to get water up and then putting it on the land. So in Western region where rain is always there, definitely the soil is rich with water, and we can definitely get water to do the farm that we want to do.
Back to the issue of fertilizer. Do you support government's move to totally wean off the farmers from fertilizer subsidy?
Yes. You see, for far too long, we have looked at agriculture as a developmental item. But I believe that we need to place agriculture where it has to be. It's an industry, like the IT industry. We used to have government, P&T, telephone, blah, blah, blah. But the moment it was put into the private sector, look at how telephony has gone to. So I believe that we need gradually create an environment. Government can do some kind of support, some kind of arrangement, creating an enabling environment for private sector to set themselves up and then trigger. Because, why do we say that the private sector is the engine of growth? When we say the private sector is the engine of growth, what we are saying is that we need the private sector to come and help us. develop the industry. Right? So what the point I'm making is that, yes, we need to support the private farmers, but let's have it as a mindset that we have goals. We are supporting up to a point. The farmers must be able to handle themselves in the long run. And that will be more sustainable than always government helping. Because, you see, the irony of the issue is that if government is trying to help, you put money into the system, and what is happening just 3 days ago will happen. Money that is meant to subsidize would end up in the private pockets. And that is what I hate. Because, I mean, how can we be so hypocritical? How can we say that we are helping the farmers? Meanwhile, what is coming out is ending in the pocket of some private people. So me, helping farmers throughout their life is something that I don't think is sustainable. What we need to do, set a platform for them, get them off. When we did the cocoa high-tech, I remember at Chufupraso, there was one farmer that I was able to set up who could buy 300 bags of asasura. And in 2003, he was the best cocoa farmer in the whole country. He didn't depend on government. He bought it on his own. Because after 2001, 2002, and he saw that the fertilizer that we have brought into the system, the practice that we have brought into the system was going to help him well. The man himself went out and bought 300 bags of fertilizers to fertilize his cocoa. There was another farmer who, out of the same situation, was able to build a 3-bedroom house around Kotochi, Chufu, Timukwa area. So you can see where I'm coming from. And it's doable. You see, it's doable.
Let's talk about cocoa because you mentioned it. And you started off from cocoa high-tech, which actually then led you into the area of rice production. When you hear today in the news that cocoa farmers are selling their farms to illegal miners, some of them say they are forced because of their activities. You have miners digging all around their farms. It makes it difficult for them to access it. Eventually, it is sold for as low as 10,000 Ghana cedis. When you hear those stories, given the work that you also started as far as cocoa production is concerned, how does it make you feel?
Yesterday, I had a hard time sleeping when I read a report on the web about this issue. Japan and EU planning to boycott Ghana cocoa because of mercury. And then I read also a report from in Sawem, where chiefs and the people are saying to their MP that they don't want any community mining in there because it was going to affect their cocoa. I wept because when we started cocoa high-tech those days, our target was we'll give the cocoa farmer enough funds every year. And I remember I walked into a community in Chufu, Himalaya Denchira those days, and an old man called me to his bedroom just to give me a testimony, a physical testimony. He said, sit on this bed. When I sat, it was Vono. You have made it possible for me to sleep on Vono. All my life, I've never slept on Vono. You had a carpet. He had a mosquito netting. And his message was that before cocoa high-tech came, every year I'll get 1 million. And you know how you call it, 1 million. But now, every month, I'm getting 1 million. I'm getting 1 million. So I can afford all this. I remember, like I said to you, that when SIF came to support us, and then the African Development Bank sent an evaluation team to come and evaluate the poverty impact of their projects. It was in my district that the World Bank and the African Development official said, I am satisfied that I'm going with a testimony. And you know what testimony it was?
Tell me.
A farmer who had benefited from the cocoa high-tech had moved from his dilapidated house to a new house, leaving everything, even the cooking utensils, into a new place. And this one, Foster Tree-Crop, the deputy operations manager, and Dr. Mensa Brompa, NDPC, they cannot testify. Mame Amadapa, he was the chief executive of SIF. They cannot testify. And that day, we all wept. And they said, oh, Honorable Odoom, you've made our day. We didn't know we'll come and meet because apparently they have gone all round. And the indication they were getting was that their project was failing. But when they came there and there was such a testimony. So for me, if we are doing this to our cocoa, then I don't know where we are going as a nation. Let me ask you a question. Galamsey, how much is it given to the country? Cocoa, how much is it given to the country? Apart from the fact that cocoa is giving so much, cocoa is affecting so much life in Ghana. So are we as a country going to sit down for Galamsey to win over cocoa? Ah, God. Our ancestors will never forgive us. So cocoa's chief executive and his people, they should sit up. I think this is the time they need to talk to the cocoa associations that are springing up so that together all of us will bring our minds there. Because cocoa is our heritage. Unfortunately, Ghana and Africa, we've been schooled out of learning our history. And that is why all these things are happening. If you don't know your history and you don't know your geography, then you don't know where you're coming from. And even today, as we are celebrating Kwame Nkrumah's day, I want to say that Ghana, we must put our patriotic thinking up because we are really, really betraying the country.
You think that it is lack of patriotism that is is leading to some of the things we're seeing in the agric sector?
Because you don't know your Ghana history.
But we have a situation where some of the people are not willing to sell their cocoa farms, but are compelled to as a result of the activities of the illegal miners themselves. So it appears there's a bit of force.
Why should we sit in our country and allow foreigners to come and force us? I've been to China several times. How dare me go to China, into any of their villages, and then try to do anything that is against them? They will not allow me. How? I remember when I was a DCE, Chinese people came to me. They wanted to mine on River Pra. And I told them I would not allow them because I was a citizen living at Sekeni Takrade. and I was drinking from pra, which had been dammed at Dabuase to give me water. So if I am here now, and then I want you to come and then mine here to destroy that water, then it means I'm betraying those people there. So I won't allow you. In spite of all the money they gave to me, I didn't allow it. But later on, what happened? When I've left the place, things went ajar. Now River Pra is polluted. How come that one person can make a difference and other people can't make the same difference?
So let's wrap up the conversation. Two major issues that I want you to touch on.
Right.
Rice production in Ghana. First of all, how you'd want government, because of some of the things that have started, at the very top, what you want government to do. And then secondly, when it comes to cocoa production, what drastic steps you think we can take to improve the situation and to maintain the quality of the cocoa that we have?
No, for rice, the private sector will have to come up. You see, before government can do anything, it's expecting the private sector to get involved, because government cannot go and plant rice. So if the rice sector, the private sector is mobilizing themselves, like I've told you, we have the observatory team now. If they rise up to the occasion, and then they lace and then think with government, like we did in Nigeria, we can have a milestone, a roadmap for that one. So for rice, we need both government and the private sector. It's not only government, because government cannot plant. But then at least what government can do is to give a conducive environment for it. Right. For cocoa, I think as a country, we must take the bull by the horn. Galamsey is doing a harm to our cocoa industry. If at the end of the day, Japan and Europe say that your cocoa is contaminated, and for that much we cannot buy your cocoa, where would Ghana be? Meanwhile, the Galamsey, we are not getting anything. So for me, I think the president and his cabinet must sit up on this issue. We are appealing to them as people that we have voted them into power to sit up and then take drastic decision and a way forward. Because I don't think Galamsey is giving us as much as cocoa is given, in terms of how many people are benefiting and how much even the government is getting.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful speaking to you. So you've heard from the man who was at the helm of affairs as far as Nigeria's success story is concerned. We definitely have the nuggets now on how to, change our story for good. Fortunately, as he mentioned, the Western Regional Coordinating Council is engaging him. There's also an initiative by GIZ together with ECOWAS, and then he's leading the National Service Secretariat on another project. Hopefully, we should see the story change in a few years' time, and we all are keeping our fingers crossed. And you out there should be ready to purchase the rice once it gets onto the market. My name is Ernest Mene. Thank you very much for your company.